Hello and welcome to the Hot Topic. My name is Richard Drabble and I am joined by Matthew Barber.
Hey.
And a Mr. Joseph Druitt.
Hey.
And this week we're talking about Mikkeller. And I've completely forgotten where Mikkeller is from. You literally told me all of 30 seconds ago, and I think
it was less than 30 seconds ago.
Let's give him clues.
Let's give him
clues.
Oh yeah, let's do that thing again that we did in the last episode.
There we go.
That was amazing. You got it in one.
Nailed it.
It's from Denmark, and it's got really funky art designy cans, but we'll go into that a little bit later. But I'm going to hand you over to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Matthew Barber.
Oh, blimey, how do you live up to that billing? Well, thanks, mate. Well, to be honest, is it news? I'm sure you're all feeling it. I'm, of course, talking about World Cup fever. Who's got World Cup fever? Do you, Joe?
Sounds like you've had too much Vice beer.
I understand that is one of the symptoms of World Cup fever is flatulence.
That if I had one of those radio soundboards, I'd have gone brah, brah. That's the noise I wanted to do. But I ended up doing a raspberry instead.
Yeah. Actually, weirdly, at time of recording, I should say, has the game kicked off yet?
The first game has happened, and I'm very pleased to announce that Qatar got absolutely destroyed by Ecuador.
Bam! Go Ecuador.
Take that,
there you go.
Qatar.
I'd say
they were never going to win Qatar, though, were they?
I'd say hard luck, Qatar.
The only reason they're in it is because they're hosting it, or they paid to host it. Anyway, we'll get into that controversy surrounding this World Cup in a minute.
Touched a nerve there, by the sounds of things. I thought it would be worth talking about it. And just 2 days ago, the news broke. Actually, I'm reading the Guardian article about it, actually, recently. But basically, Qatar, I think in a bit of a twist at the last minute, said no beer, no alcohol, not having it. I imagine Budweiser were absolutely thrilled about it. I've got to sort of say it's the cultural reason I think that they've given for not having the beer there, but it's a bit like you wanted a World Cup, didn't you? People.
This is my biggest issue with this, and it's the World Cup element to it, but it's also the fact that FIFA forced Brazil to change their laws in order to have beer within stadiums, which had been illegal before the World Cup came to Brazil. So I just the hypocrisy here is one of the many things that's so wrong about this. Not to mention the fact that Budweiser, hey, it's AB InBev, biggest beer company in the world. They've got the money to spend on it, but they'll have spent a ton of money to get these exclusive rights to sell the beer.
Well, as you boys both know, I don't care about football.
Makes for a great hot topic.
It's all right. I have no real interest, but I did thoroughly enjoy the way. Did you see what Budweiser put on their Twitter account?
Yeah, it was kind of the best response.
This is news to me.
So when they found out that they were not allowed to sell beer there or in the stadiums, they just tweeted out, "Well, this is awkward."
Quite like that. Well, actually, so on that note, I'm just going to read you the statement from FIFA that came out Friday. Following discussions between host country authorities and FIFA, a decision has been made to focus the sale of alcoholic beverages on the FIFA Fan Festival. Other fan destinations and licensed venues removing sales points of beer from Qatar's World Cup 22 stadium perimeters. This is the bit that it's not all bad news for Budweiser. There is no impact to the sale of Bud Zero, which will remain available at all Qatar World Cup stadiums. Phew. That's a load off.
Totally destroyed the fans' experience because, let's face it, Bud Zero is not great. It's not a good alcoholic-free beer.
I think Bud Zero is the worst thing I've ever put in my mouth. Ever.
Let's not go there.
Do not pull that thread.
So, moving swiftly on. But it does say that obviously the sale of alcohol is strictly controlled in Qatar, a conservative Muslim nation. But however, it has been decided that alcohol will be available at matches only in hospitality boxes where the cheapest suites are nearly £20,000 a match. So, it's basically saying if you've got the money, you can have some alcohol, but otherwise, everyone else just
stuff.
We don't care. And it just shows that I think this is why the whole lack of emphasis about this World Cup, because it's the wrong time of year, and how can someone get excited about a World Cup when it's, it's cold outside, and yet in the host country it's like 50 degrees centigrade. But more to the point, that the fact that this whole thing is there's a dirty area of money that's spinning around behind the background. So it's hard not to, and this is not new news for World Cups and FIFA. We know FIFA's not a good organization. In fact, they're probably the worst organization. But the fact that it's so at the front of everything that's happening with this World Cup is a very bitter, as a football fan, it's a bitter pill to swallow, because I still would like to watch the football. I enjoy the football. I want to know who's doing what, but at the same time, it's just not good.
There was also quite a babbling statement from, I can't remember his actual title, but the guy Gianni Infantino. He is president. Sorry, I'm just checking. He is president of FIFA. He just came out with this really rambling statement and said, "Oh yeah, well, all the West, they're all bad, and I am all of these people who are things, and I think it's all it's absolute." Do you know what the word is? Codswallop.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. But I read one story where somebody, you have to queue a mile in the fan stadiums to get a beer with all of the fencing they've put in place, which I find quite funny.
God.
So they're just zigzagging back and forth. But it is a bit upsetting how almost the beer story is overshadowing kind of everything else that's going on over there as well.
Yeah, I think you're right, Travis. There's a bigger story here, and it's just being, the beers thing has been like what most people have focused on, and it's like, really? Because there's a lot of other stuff that we should be talking about.
I'm thinking of boycotting the World Cup. I'm not sure I've got the resolve to really do it and see through my convictions, but also didn't they say thousands of people died building the stadiums?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's pretty ridiculous. That's what we should be talking about, that's for sure.
Boycotting the World Cup is possibly going to be slightly easier for me because I'm going to be out of the country for most of it. So, I'm not going to make myself out to be a saint just yet, but it's not good. It's not good at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think it's, also as well, the inevitable that we as the UK don't go anywhere. I think that's pretty much where things will cut off anyway. But it doesn't lead to a good and exciting, kind of turn of events. Let's put it that way.
Well, should we move on to a happier topic, if not a hoppier one?
So let's move on to something maybe a little bit lighter and a little bit nicer, conversation-wise. So we are currently trying Mikkeller, which is, I thought this was the first time I tried it, but then I realised I tried it last weekend. And exactly what I'm drinking.
Recently as well.
Yeah, but I will tell you what, I will set the scene to where I tried Mikkeller for the first time as well. So nice. I was off on a campervanning adventure, because that's the sort of thing I do now, is go on campervan adventures, and we were campervanning on top of this amazing hilltop looking over Portland into Weymouth on the bay, and we walked down to the beach, and we were sitting on top of a pillbox. Do you guys know what a pillbox is from World War II?
Yeah. Well, they had where the gunners would sit and they'd watch out to the bay and the sea, and we were sitting on top of one of those, and I brought, from what I found in Asda, was the Mikkeller, and I wanted to try a new Hazy. I wanted to try a Hazy IPA, because who doesn't love an IPA? I'm sitting on there, watching the sunset coming down, trying this beer. And then I discovered it was a nudist beach. And nice. In Weymouth.
In Weymouth. So,
honestly, I just
cold nudist beach.
I just stumbled upon it, honest. Hang on, it's November.
Yeah. And the sun was going down. And just this group of naked people just walked past me while I was sitting on the pillbox.
Blimey. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a sight for sore eyes.
Yeah. But the beer was good. So
it's a beer and a view all at once.
Yeah.
Heavens above. Lovely. Well, this is probably similar to Weymouth Beach. Copenhagen, right, is where Mikkeller is from. I'm meant to be sort of nominated fact boy on this one, but it's a microbrewery. And anyone want to tell me what a microbrewery is and how you get to call yourself particularly small?
It's definitely the scale, the volume of like beer that you create every given year, right?
Cubic centimeters of
hectoliters.
Are we in hectoliters? Are we in hectoliters territory? Because how can you be a microbrewery if you do like over because hectoliters is a vast quantity of liquid, isn't it?
Oh no! So 1 hectoliter is 100 liters of beer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was going to say because a hectare is like 100 square meters, isn't it?
Well, there you go, Babs. You had the answer inside you all along.
If only I'd swooped in earlier. Only if I'd had that belief in myself.
You have sounded like fantastic and saved the podcast.
Alas, it's ruined.
Right, let's keep going. So, how many, Barbara, you were saying about what it takes to be a microbrewery?
Yes. At what point do you break the ceiling and keep going? I'm assuming the fact that these guys are being stocked in a major UK retailer means that they've actually kind of gone. I think presumably they must have started as a microbrewery and are now just a brewery.
Well, this is my point, because they're from Denmark, but they're obviously selling very well here in the UK. They must be selling very well in other countries as well, if not their own native lands. Because everything I've tried from Mikkeller has been fantastic. I haven't had a bad Mikkeller, let's put it that way. So I've had their, an IPA from theirs before, which is delicious, and I think their non-alcoholic is probably the best non-alcoholic beer that I've ever had. I will say that out there. Ooh. It's a very, very good non-alcoholic beer. Yeah. Sorry, big drop, but I think you and Mikkeller are probably on the same path. But I've only tried one non-alcoholic from Mikkeller, which was good. Whereas I've had many different non-alcoholics in Big Drop, which have been fantastic. So I think I'd put the numbers wise on Big Drop. But I've always enjoyed a Mikkeller, and this Ich bin Raspberry, Berliner Weiss, but raspberry infused Berliner Weiss is fantastic. I mean, it's very sweet, as you'd imagine from a raspberry beer. But it's delicious. I'm really enjoying it.
That's good. So I've picked up the Hazy IPA, which was the one I had last time, and it is a solid IPA. I think it possibly could be a bit more hazy in my eyes, maybe a little bit more punchy in the taste, but it's good. I'm a fan. It's nice. It's got a nice bitter through all the way as you're trying it, and a nice kind of got a little sweet aftertaste as well.
So it's fair to say you guys believe in the liquid. You're enjoying the beer that you've had so far, and you rate it.
I think the liquid's good, but I think what does Mikkeller justice is the fact that they've got this crazily unique design choice. Mm-hmm. These like characters, these illustrative characters that they have. Mm-hmm. Like the really like elongated noses. They're kind of like quite jovial looking. Mm-hmm. Quite eye-catching, but very distinctive. Very reminiscent of like old-timey cartoons and like, kind of comic books.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen this before, but obviously I haven't done before. This is all new to Mikkeller. So this is plastered all over their, their brand identity. Like for example, this Berliner Weiss can has like one of their characters with a raspberry in the middle of in his mouth, like in between his teeth, to kind of show. And it's just quite different. It's quite refreshing, these kind of pastel-y colours. This isn't like an in-your-face craft brewer. This isn't like, they've got hand grenades on it, or they've got, teddy bears exploding, or death metal vibes. Like this is very much like, nice palettes, kind of colours and, kind of like these fun kind of like, caricatures, but it's very clearly a beer inside it.
Nice Danish vibe.
Have you guys ever seen the artist Keith Haring?
Keith Harris.
Keith Haring.
No, I haven't heard of Keith Haring.
So he's fairly famous through like the 90s into the 2000s, but all his art is very, very similar to this, which is quite good. Yeah, I currently have one of his pieces on order. Not an original, because that would be absurd. But yeah.
I thought Keith Harris was
a shady photo in a museum somewhere. Someone's taking a photo and you're going to print out of it.
Yeah, I'm just going to get a
I thought Keith Harris... Oh, go on.
No, I was going to say you probably have seen some of his work before. Give me a minute. I will find a link and send it.
I thought Keith Harris was the bloke who had Orville. You know, the puppet?
Keith Haring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Keith Harris is the guy with Orville. He's an English ventriloquist.
Orville, the kind of like weird green bird that sat in a nappy or something like that.
What was his name? Keith what?
Harris.
Keith Haring.
Oh.
No, Keith. Travis, what was he called?
Keith Haring.
Haring.
Well,
American artist.
Well, you guys are having a...
Yeah. I've seen his
You've
stuff
seen his
before.
stuff. But I've got a similar sort of vibe from that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. He's got a lot more colour, I think, with it. Yeah, I can see some inspiration, but it definitely is very distinctive. It's very different.
Yeah.
But I was loving about Mikkeller how, they're not obviously a very small brewery, so I don't know if they could still technically be classed as a microbrewery.
I know now. I know the answer. Well, they were a microbrewery. They were doing the. I love there's a few words that have been bandied about for the style of brewery, like gypsy brewing, and not having their own site, working with other breweries to mass produce that, and also known as cuckoo brewing, because I think that's what cuckoos do.
Okay.
They go in other nests and that sort of thing. But do you know how they started?
No, tell me.
So there are two founders. Mikkeller Brewing Co, who's a high school teacher, and Christian Clarup Keller, who's a journalist. So I was trying to think of the other breweries we've talked about in the past. There's always, we've always had a thing for beer, sort of thing. But Drabbers, prick your ears up. Obviously, these guys, these guys come from different professions, but they were self-taught home brewers.
Oh. Yeah.
Wow.
So they got started, and the way they were kind of honing their skills brewing was trying to make carbon copies of other beers that they tried and see if they could fool people, getting them to sit down, blindfold them, and give them the real McCoy and the version that they made themselves. And that actually went quite well. And they said, we kind of might be onto something here. Shall we take it to the next step and start making our own?
I love that.
I like that a lot.
So rather than starting out with something very bold like a chili-based beer, they went with something more tried and tested.
Look, I feel like there's many famous people in the world who dreamt big early on. And
sometimes you need to take an artistic gamble, don't you?
That's
it. And I took an artistic gamble, and I think it paid off.
Well, I mean... Yes, okay. But I love that story. So they had very different walks of life from beer, but were just avid home brewers and set themselves these challenges of trying to fool people basically. Can you tell what's the real McCoy? And more often than not, it went very well for them. I love that. That's great. I think that's a real kind of testament to willpower and kind of, just wanting to keep it going and keep doing something right.
Indeed. And do you know what, actually, apologies. I got away from the original point that what we were talking about is brewery sites and that sort of thing. I understand they now operate 4 sites that brew beer. One in San Diego. And that's actually a brewery, as I understand. And then the others there are 3 brew pubs. War Pigs in Copenhagen, and just named Mikkeller in London, and Baghaven. There is also a brew site in Copenhagen.
We're going to have to go to the Mikkeller in London because I've seen a lot about this Mikkeller London one. And I love that they've set up an outpost in London as well. It seems like they've gone from Denmark to London, which is quite cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, seeing there's a bit of a craft brew consumption kind of fan base here in London, in the London area, which I can definitely attest to. That's why we know a bit about this. But I'm loving that, they're doing stuff like this where they are, I've just noticed, they've created a collaboration beer with Warner Brothers Consumer Products, where they have done a Syrax Rises, which is all about the House of Dragon, the HBO, project.
I'm getting some. I'm getting some straight away.
So they've done a House of Dragon beer called the Syrax Rises. and that was launched in the end of August. And if I'm quite honest, from the distance, from what I can see from it is like basically the illustration is like two hands holding a dragon egg with a dragon coming out the top of it. Okay, so very artistic. But from the very grainy photo that I saw before, it almost looked like a dragon turning its head, and you could just see its anus.
Oh man, I can sort of see what you mean. We didn't need that.
I like the collaboration. We don't always need the collaboration with some form of food or other thing. I'm down for the collaboration of the movie, or TV series or whatever.
I'm only 4 episodes in.
If anything, this should be paving the way for other beers to do TV or film related releases. Like, Corona and Fast and Furious have got to be doing one sooner rather than later.
You literally read my mind.
No, not this again. I'm only 4 episodes into that though, so I have to try and get some and drink along with.
I haven't watched any of it yet, but I will do as soon as it gets to somewhere I don't have to pay to watch it. Basically, yes.
Marketer's nightmare. Is line
but it does seem like Mikkeller are very active around the world. Like, although they probably have quite a small presence from what you were saying there, Barbara, about the number of brew pubs and kind of breweries they have. They are involved in a lot of different events, from Scotland to Denmark to. It looks like there's one here that's in the middle of the ocean between the Great Britain and Iceland. I don't know what that's all about. The Mikkeller Bad Torshavn, which is, something in the North Atlantic, on a remote set of North Atlantic islands nestled in a historic neighbourhood. Wow, that's so funny.
That's one of a kind, isn't it?
Yeah, very weird. Yes, so it's up in the Faroe Islands, which is in the middle of between.
That's remote.
So they've got a bar up in the Faroe Islands. That's so funny. Why on earth would they want to do that?
You just pop in on your way home from work, don't you?
Yeah. So bizarre.
I think there's a very fancy restaurant in the Faroe Islands as well. I think Faroe Islands is like the next big place, clearly.
It's all the cool stuff, all the cool kids going. But yeah, I'm liking it. I mean, obviously you can go and get your own branded merch of all your Mikkeller favourites beers and t-shirts, and, it's very distinctive looking, and, kind of all these things. Like, there's even a Beer Geek Bonanza board game that's a Mikkeller, beer board game. So, if we had a spare £55, we could purchase it.
£55?
Let's face it. Yeah.
Wow. Better come with a crate as well.
No, I think that's just for the board games. Ouch. But yeah, I mean, so Mikkeller, you can get hoppy beers, dark beers, sour beers, lagers, non-alcoholics. There's a whole plethora of different beers here. They'll bundle it all up. They're doing currently a Christmas calendar. If you want a Mikkeller Christmas calendar, you can do that as well. So there's a lot on offer. That's all I'm going to say about Mikkeller. And it's quite an interesting, and it's a Danish brewery that every beer I've had so far from them has been delicious.
Yeah, I've missed out on them so far, but I'm going to give them a try.
No, very good.
So Instagram, they have 237,000 followers.
Oh wow, plenty.
They're not doing too bad there. And then Twitter, they have 43.4k followers.
Oh, fair play.
Not to be sniffed at.
No, they're doing okay.
That's it. So yeah, look out for Mikkeller.
Whammy. Well done, everyone.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe, Rich,
Barbara,
and Simo,
goodbye. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com,
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.